Welcome to 'Tis the Soundtrack, the podcast dedicated to digging deep and bringing you the merriest of music all year long. I'm your host, Kevin Williams, and today is June 25th, also known as Leon Day, or the halfway point to Christmas. According to nationaldaycalendar.com, Leon Day not only marks the day where the coming Christmas is now closer than the last, but it is also the day crafters begin planning their homemade gifts and decorations for the holiday season. They also describe Leon Day as a day for those who miss the winter holidays to have a mini winter celebration in June. For this year's Leon Day episode, I'm sharing my conversation with Jeff of the Lost Christmas podcast, where we talk about two of our shared loves and a great mashup of summer and winter festivities. That's right, we're talking Christmas music and the Vans Warped Tour. This year marks the Warped Tour's 30th anniversary and the festival's first return since its farewell tour in 2019. This year's Warped Tour also features one of the largest and most diverse lineups in the festival's history. And with so many amazing acts, you know there has to be some outstanding Christmas music. In today's episode, Jeff and I do some reminiscing about our time attending the Warped Tour in the early 2000s, and we each share a dozen or so of our favorite Christmas tracks by this year's performers. But before we jump into our conversation, I want to take a minute to talk about all of the other fantastic Christmas podcasts, many of which are also releasing their own Leon Day episodes. When you're done listening to this episode, head over to christmaspodcasts.com, where you can find all of the other shows in the Christmas Podcast Network, including Jeff's Lost Christmas podcast. Now lace up your Vans and grab a can of Monster. It's time to talk Warped Tour. Joining me tonight, we have a returning guest, a Merry Mixtape participant, and the host of the Lost Christmas podcast, Jeff Loftin. Thank you for joining me tonight, Jeff.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, this is super fun. This is going to be an amazing episode. Very glad to be on the podcast again.
And for folks who haven't listened to your Merry Mixtape episode or who are unfamiliar with Lost Christmas, can you share a little about what your podcast is?
Sure. Yeah. So the podcast is about kind of the hidden histories of a lot of the traditions that we have at Christmas time, and not just ours. And by ours, I mean like North American Christmas traditions, but I go all around the world and learn about different histories and habits, recipes, all kinds of fun stuff, and get back to the root of why they do it.
Awesome. So for our episode tonight, the Vans Warped Tour is coming back from retirement for its 30th anniversary.
Woohoo!
And back... And back when we were recording your Merry Mixtape episode last year, you had a pair of songs on your playlist from Seosin and Blink-182, both Warped Tour alums, which took us down a path of discussing the festival.
Most definitely.
So do you remember what years you attended the Warped Tour?
Yeah, 04 and 05.
Oh, so we're in a tight grouping because I was 04, 05, and 06 myself.
That's awesome. Yeah. I had an absolute blast. I loved it. I was big into the like post-hardcore and pop-punk scene, mostly in the post-hardcore side, but I just absolutely love all kinds of music. And, you know, I like the Britpop stuff and all sorts of like interesting music. I find music to be super fascinating. So
do you have any particular artists or sets that were particularly memorable for you?
Probably The Used. I think I saw
good.
The Used when they were, I mean, it was still pretty early. I think I first saw them on 6th Street in Austin in 2002 or 2003. And then they were at, I think, both years at Warped Tour. And then maybe Senses Fail. I feel like those are the two that had a big impact on me. I wanted to see Gym Class Heroes, but I don't think they were touring with this yet. But yeah, so just super fun. Honestly, Warped Tour is, if you've never been, for those that have never been, it was experiential as much as it was it was just so cool, and you were around your people usually, and so there was ska people, there was pop punk people, there was post hardcore, there was some actual metal there was all kinds of really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So went about the same years, and so I was there for the Flogging Mollies and Dropkick Murphys and Rancid and the Transplants and bands like that, which kind of just shows you how diverse, even within that pool, all the artists and acts were. Personally, I remember 2005, they brought out Billy Idol. In 2006, it was Joan Jett. And for getting up there in age, they were going just as hard as the bands with the 18-year-old kids on the Battle for the Band stage, which
Oh,
was
love
just
it.
awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, and again, for folks who haven't been there, it's a big opportunity to see bands before they get big. So,
Hmm.
like, I remember going and, Fall Out Boy was there, My Chemical Romance was there, which are headline acts now and have been for the past 2 decades.
Yep.
But at the time, they were just another no-name band who was signed up for the tour. And one of the things that's a little bit different about the Warped Tour is every band manages their own merch tents, and that's always been a thing. So they make all the money from everything they sell, but that also means they have to staff it.
Yep.
So often they were staffing their own tents. So you'd show up at a tent to buy a T-shirt or a CD, and you'd talk and interact with the band members there. So I
That's right.
remember walking by the Fall Out Boy merch tent, and a couple of the guys were hanging out there, just kind of yelling at folks going by to come check out their set in a couple hours, and just a far cry from what you'd see at a big concert today.
Oh, so yeah, it was wildly different because it was very much a social scene as it was music,
Yeah,
right? And because of that, because it was very interactive with the bands. Yeah, the Used was the same way. They had the lead singer was out there slinging CDs, so it's like And for those that don't know, CDs are what we had right
yeah,
after cassette tapes, right before digital downloads.
yeah. Before it went digital, and then started the loop again, and we're back at vinyl now.
Exactly, which is to me is the premier way to listen to music if you can.
So I had early aspirations about that same time of staking out a career as a club DJ. And so I had a
Nice.
nice turntable set up at home, which, years went on, got kids, donated that, started getting rid of my record collection. And then just last year, my wife bought me a new record player. And now we've just started again at zero and we're building it back up. So
It's the process, right? It's not
yep.
always about the collection.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's the hunt. It's the yeah.
And it's about keeping vinyl stores in business too. I mean, that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
Like local like small record stores are really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out next Saturday. This will be in the past when folks hear this, but next Saturday is Record Store Day, and so we've got a couple in town here who are participating, and it is a big deal every year here, and folks line up around the block and down the corner to get in and try to get their limited releases.
Love that. Yeah, love it.
So, for folks who aren't familiar with the Warp Tour, I've got a quick little rundown, and I will try to make it fast so we can get on to the Christmas portion of this.
That's right.
The Warp Tour was, I guess is because it's back now, the largest and longest running music festival in North America. So it started back in 1995 by Kevin Lyman, and the tour ran each summer all the way through 2019. Warp Tour is often credited as the blueprint for every traveling music festival that's come since then. When it started, Kevin originally envisioned it as an alt-rock festival and was trying to get bands kind of in that ilk, but because of where he's from and where the bands were from, it really leaned heavily on the Southern California punk and ska scene like you were talking about. So those first early years, you had bands like Blink-182 when they were a no-name band, and Real Big Fish and the Boss Tones and Sublime and 311 and Goldfinger and NoFX and so on and so forth. And then when we came into the 2000s and the time when you and I were going, it was a launching ground for
Yep.
every prominent pop punk band. And like you said, the post-hardcore, the emo acts, some of the newer metal stuff that was starting. So you had a lot of bands like Bowling for Soup, Simple Plan, Sum 41, like we mentioned, Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance, Jimmy Eat World, Yellow Card. And then going into the 2010s, you still had some of those classic acts, but you're adding a lot of newer bands. So Inner Shikari, We the Kings, Falling in Reverse, Pierce the Veil. Those are all bands that really came up through the Warp Tour scene.
That's right.
So that went through 2018. And 2018 was going to be the final year of the Warp Tour, but they came back for a victory lap the following year in 2019. That was their 20th anniversary summer. So instead of 50 stops across the country all summer long, they just did 3 cities in 2019. They did Cleveland, Atlantic City, and Mountain View, California. And because it was their anniversary show and their final hurrah, they also brought out some of the biggest names that had ever participated. So rather than they still had new bands, but rather than focusing on the new bands, they had, heavy hitters from the last 25 years. So Offspring and Good Charlotte, All American Rejects, Bad Religion, Blink came back, The Used came back, and then COVID happened and Warp was dead. And it's kind of sat that way until last year when Kevin Lyman announced it was coming back in 25 for the 30th anniversary. So much like 2019, this year it's only 3 stops. We've got Long Beach, California, Washington, D.C., and Orlando, Florida. Ticket pre-sales started at the end of last October, way before any of the bands were announced.
Mm-hmm.
And since it was a 3-city tour, just like 2019, a lot of folks purchasing pre-sale tickets thought it was going to be another greatest hit show or something like the When We Were Young festival where you just bring out all the heavy hitters.
Yep.
And it's not. It's a standard Warp Tour. It just happens to be 3 cities. And so they started doing a slow release announcement at the end of January. So every day, 3 to 5 to 6 bands would be released across the different tour stops. And they'd each get a little Instagram post and they do something interactive with it. They had a lot of the bands pre-record like a video that they posted to Instagram of them announcing their participation. So first couple days you had, like Bowling for Soup, Simple Plan, Pennywise, and people were getting excited. And then that was followed by a bunch of acts that people decided weren't what they wanted to see on the Warped Tour. So the next couple days you had the Home Team and World's First Cinema, Point North, Royal and the Serpent. And so each day the Instagram announcements went up and you had people screaming, what about the headliners? Or, I pre-bought my tickets and I want to hear Fall Out Boy, or, these aren't punk bands, or demanding refund, just your typical social media complaining that happens. So what should have been a really cool moment for up-and-coming artists to get a little bit of attention throughout the month of February while they were doing the slow release just turned into a month of complaining by a chunk of people.
Shocking.
Yes, shocking, yes. And then you had everyone else who said, hey, remember when you went to the Warped Tour 20 years ago? You didn't know who any of these bands were either. That was how you found out about them. This is the same thing. And I generally fall into that camp. So the last month and a half or so, or I guess month of February into March, has been fun for me because there's been like 100 bands I've never heard of. I've loaded up onto some playlists and I've tortured my family with for the last month while I've got it on in the kitchen or while I'm out doing yard work.
Because we're old now.
Yeah, because that's we're old and
we
and we spend time in the kitchen and the yard now. Yeah,
that's right. Yep, you've got the mix of SoundCloud and like the also the old classics that you would find out streaming or CDs of. Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah. So I know you haven't been looking at the lineups as long as I have, but have you found any new bands on there that are new to you?
Yeah, so I found some, and then I remembered some that I had kind of forgotten that I'd listened to that were kind of obscure bands, even in like the like early 2010s and late aughts, I guess. I think so. For me, like there's always the classics like Motion City Soundtrack. Like for me at least, like Motion City Soundtrack has just like a very unique sound that like can't be replicated. So like Seosen, which is one of my like it introduced me to like the post-hardcore scene. But as far as new stuff, Saturdays at Your Place was a new one that I had never heard of. Girlfriends, and I really appreciated their music. I thought it was like super cool. So those are two that I picked up on that I was like, oh, okay, this is like something different to add to a playlist every now and again.
For me, got a couple pools. The Long Beach tour has a lot more bands you'd kind of classify in the emo rap scene. So I've never really listened to it, but I picked up Ian Dior and Nothing Nowhere, Suko, a few other ones.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, so I heard I forget some kind of like punk rock historian on YouTube had a whole video about how the modern generation doesn't form punk bands, but they do like 808s and like make their own music, but it still has the punk like rhythm and sound to it in its own way. Just it's more hip hop based rather than like punk rock based, but simplistic beats and like catchy lyrics that aren't like deep. So I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and outside of that, I'd never really listened to 408 or Magnolia Park before, but for me, those are some of like the best examples of like what I'd consider like modern pop punk or like current pop punk that's out there.
Sure.
And then Warped Tour was always a big tent, but it's much far reaching this year than I think I've ever seen. So you've got artists like Amigo the Devil and Bryce Vine and Dwayne, all playing on there at various stops this year. And so in addition to that, ska and kind of post-hardcore, metalcore. You've got, like I said, a bunch of emo rap. You've got EDM bands that are on there. You've got, a couple that dip into country. It's just a really cool, eclectic mix of things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. I was disappointed not to see a few bands, and not even like bigger bands, but like I just thought they might be just because they fit culturally, like in sound-wise. But
yeah, Real Big Fish. I was really hoping to see them on there. They're one of my favorite of the older, Warped Tour bands. Sleeping with Sirens is a band I really like.
Yes.
Kellen Quinn's got an amazing voice, and I was sure they were going to be on there and was super disappointed they didn't show up anywhere.
I was hoping for Neck Deep. I don't know if you've listened to Neck Deep, but yeah, but I really like their sound too. They're very much like a classic, like early 2000s pop punk, but I was hoping to see them on there somewhere, but that's okay. I can always listen to them too. So.
And, you mentioned we're getting to be older guys now, so I saw an interview with Kevin Lyman, and he said that as he was putting together the lineups and reaching out to bands, he was asking his students at the university where he teaches for suggestions. And so I think you've got lineups that are heavily influenced by kids that are, in that 18 to 24 age bracket, which is perfect because that's, the bracket that was really meant for. I mean, that is, prime going to Warped Tour age there. So if I don't like it because, there's not enough old stuff and I'm old, I get it. There's other people that are enjoying it too.
That's right. I'm not really the target audience. Yeah.
So, like I said, they were doing a slow release of the bands. So a few weeks ago now, they nearly completed the lineup announcements. And so, like we were talking about before, DC is the smallest. And by smallest, it still has 92 artists playing over 2 days. Long Beach, Orlando are both north of 130. So I didn't do the math, but I think with enough variation between the lineups, there's around 200 different artists playing across those 3 shows, which got me thinking, some of these artists have great Christmas music. I've heard it before, or their covers. But with so many bands I've never heard of, there's got to be some awesome Christmas music I've never heard of in there too. Sure. And so that led to the idea for this episode, which, 10 minutes in or wherever we're at, we're finally getting to the point of it here. But the idea was to listen to a bunch of Christmas music put out by the bands of the 30th anniversary Warped Tour and see if there's anything to share with listeners. And so from our previous conversations, you were the first person I reached out to and said, hey, Jeff, you want in on this? Is this something you're interested in? And graciously you accepted. So I appreciate that. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah, so when you reached out, I immediately was like, "Yes, this is totally in my wheelhouse." I think I've owned every Punk Ghost Christmas album and variation that has ever existed, and I love hearing new Christmas music too. I have a playlist that I just constantly add and rotate music out of, and so I got to add some new stuff, which is it's new to me, right? New to me Christmas music. So some of these songs are 15 years old, but I had never heard them before.
Yeah, same here. So for the format today, what we did is we each picked a tour stop. I'm out on the West Coast, so I picked Long Beach, and you went with Orlando, right?
Orlando. Yep, I went with a bigger group.
Yeah, the bigger list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we each looked at music from the bands on our respective lists or respective tour stops, and we each picked a dozen or so. And then in Warped Tour fashion, we put them alphabetically in a list because in Warped Tour there's no headliners. You just list the bands alphabetically, and so we'll go down and share what we came up with.
Love it.
Perfect. So I've got my Monster Energy here ready.
Nice.
I've made sure I wore a pair of Vans to work today because I was recording in the office. Nice. So I'm all set. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So you've got the first song. This is A Day to Remember with the song Right Where You Want Me to Be. And they are in Long Beach and Orlando this year.
We've done this year, it was the best time. It was the worst times. But we built something.
Yep. Yeah. So to me, Census Fail is, A Day to Remember. Sorry. A Day to Remember is one of those bands that just screams Warped Tour to me, right? I think they had a pretty solid run, and they were very much in that like pop punk, like soft hardcore scene. The approachable screaming, as some people would call it. And this song, I remember when this song came out, when they released it, and I like it. It's not really controversial. It's very much a Day to Remember song. It sounds just like all their other ones, but it's a good one.
Yeah, and A Day to Remember is a great example of the Warped Tour because they were a Battle of the Bands band the first year they played there. So back up again here. So at every stop, the Warped Tour put on a Battle of the Bands where local artists auditioned to play. I believe it was 2005 at the Tampa stop. A Day to Remember was a Battle of the Band local participant there. And then obviously went on and did all the stuff they've done since then, which is just awesome. Hey everyone, this is Future Kevin here. Future Kevin is the Kevin who cuts in during the editing phase. So future compared to when past Kevin and Jeff recorded this episode back in April, but still past compared to when you're listening to this episode in the present. I hope that made some sense. I'm jumping in here because I did a pretty poor job explaining how the Battle of the Bands worked. So, Battle of the Bands was sponsored by Ernie Ball, who had their own stage at each of the Warped Tour stops. Bands weren't actually battling at the Warped Tour. That all happened ahead of time, with the winners being pre-selected, usually 4 bands per tour stop, and each given the opportunity to play a set on the Ernie Ball stage. Ocala, Florida natives A Day to Remember were selected to play the Tampa stop in 2005. 6 days later, a local Scranton band was selected as one of the winners to play the Pennsylvania stop. They were Motionless in White. The Battle of the Bands is back this year, just scaled down a bit with only 2 bands performing at each stop. Slideways and Glass Waves performed in DC recently. Pull the Curtain and All Hype will be in Long Beach next month. And Walking Blue and Alec will take the stage in Orlando in November. Okay, back to you, past Kevin and Jeff. Okay, for number 2, we have you again, and this is All Time Low, who's in DC and Orlando this year with Fool's Holiday.
Yeah, so what's funny is I'm not really the biggest All Time Low fan, but this song is like on repeat in my like regular Christmas playlist. It's I think it just because it hits so different, because it very much captures like the emo attitude. I feel like the woe is me, like I've got all these feelings and no one understands me, so I'm on this like adventure. So honestly, they're such like an interesting band too, in my opinion, because they've continued to maintain success. And I think it's a great one. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, someone summed it up super well, and I'm gonna butcher what they said, but I'll try to get through it. It was something like, All Time Low is that band that gets suggested to you because it's close enough to all the stuff you listen to, and you resist for long enough until you realize you like it, and then just accept it.
Exactly.
And so and I thought that was just a great description.
I think that's a wonderful description.
And they're a perennial Warped Tour band too. This will be their 6th time appearing. And this song, I think, was on one of the Punk Goes Pop Christmas albums. The same one that I think we discussed the last time you came on here.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, it had it was on the same one that I think even the second version of this album, the Christmas album, had Mookie's Last Christmas from Seosin on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's for folks who want to look it up, there's another All Time Low Christmas song too, and I won't say the name on the off chance you've got kids in the car, because then you're just going to hear them repeat it for the rest of the car ride home. But it's got a great music video with puppets, and I'm a sucker for Muppets and Muppet adjacent things, and it's based on a famous scene from the Christmas Vacation movie. And actually, that's probably a good time to make a quick announcement here. Many of the songs we're going to be talking about from both our lists have themes, content, language that's not suitable for the youngest of listeners out there. So when I edit this and cut in all the music snippets, everything you'll hear on here will be perfectly fine for anyone to listen to. But before you go throw it on a playlist, maybe check it for content, make sure it's something you're okay with.
That's right. This is not a specific endorsement of the content of the songs, just that they exist, and we appreciate that in an artistic sense.
Yes, there you go. So this is actually a good segue into the next one. This is my first one, and this is Blackbear, or Matt Musto. This is his first Warped Tour appearance, and he'll be in Long Beach this year. And he did a Christmas song way, way, way back before he was Blackbear, when he was just Matt Musto. Huh. And he did this one with Tyler Carter from is it Woe Is Me, I think is the band he was in. And it's much different than the stuff he does now. So I said it was a good segue because Blackbear's the guy who raps through the Monster song by All Time Low. Yeah. And if you don't know him from that, he's the guy that did Hot Girl Bummer, and I think that's probably the most big track that he's had.
Yeah. Emo rapper, right? I mean,
emo rapper, yep, yeah. But this song is different. It's almost like a country song. It's soft. It's got a twangy guitar. It's not rapping. They sing over it, and it's just the name of the. I guess I should probably say the name of the song. The name of the song is "I Hate the Holidays." How I hate the holidays. So not the uplifting Christmas tune. It's a song about all the things he doesn't like during the holidays, all the social norms of the season. I love at the end of it, there's a line that says, "I don't even want Starbucks because this year's cups suck." I thought that was great that got in there.
Yep, if you're feeling angsty, it's a good one. Yeah.
Again, one where the language theme's probably not appropriate for the youngest listeners, so enjoy responsibly. And cool for anyone who is a Blackbear fan, like my 13-year-old son, but has never heard older stuff.
Yep, love it. Yeah, this was a new one for me. I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. We'll pull the curtain away. So literally, I just went through the list of bands and went to Google and typed the band name and said Christmas song or Christmas music after it.
Guilty. Same for me. That's how I found some new bands, and I had to cut my list down because they were a surprising amount more than what I anticipated. So
yeah. So like we said, each of our tour stops had about 130 artists. I think for mine, I got north of 40 easily.
same.
And then had to start paring it down from there. The next one's me also. This one is Bowling for Soup, who is at all 3 stops this year, and it's their song Merry Flippin' Christmas, Happy Freakin' New Year.
Merry flippin' Christmas and happy freaking New Year.
Love it.
So Bowling for Soup, another perennial Warped Tour band. This is their 10th year. I wasn't the hugest Bowling for Soup fan, but I started to become one after watching Phineas and Ferb with my kids when they were little.
Nice.
For folks that don't know, Bowling for Soup does the theme song, and it's Jarrett Reddick, the main singer, who sings the theme song to Phineas and Ferb. The band also appears as a in-show band love handle for several episodes, and I believe I saw that Jarrett also wrote some of the other songs that are in the show, so he's got such a distinct voice. Now, anytime I listen to a Bowling for Soup song, it makes me think of watching Phineas and Ferb with the kids, and so I've got that connection to it.
Love this. Yeah, this was on my list too. I removed it because I saw you already had it.
Oh,
Yeah. So fun fact about Bowling for Soup. When I was a soccer coach many moons ago, a professional soccer coach, I coached a kid, and his dad was the band instructor for some of the members of Bowling for Soup when they were in high school. So,
Oh, yeah, because they all came from the same school in Texas.
Wichita Falls.
Is that down in your area? And yeah.
I mean, Texas is big, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say it's like probably 2.5 hours away in driving. So in Texas terms, that's pretty close.
Yeah, that's close. That's just down the road.
Yep.
Yeah, so Bowling for Soup has 2 Christmas albums full of songs. They're both called Merry Flippin' Christmas. It's volumes 1 and 2.
Yep.
The first one is just classic Christmas songs for the most part. Nothing original. They do have a cover of the Ramones' Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight. And they do a cover of We're a Couple of Misfits from the Rudolph Rankin Bass special. But other than that, just your classic Christmas stuff.
Yep.
But the second album that came out a year or 2 later, it's only 5 tracks, but the first 4 are original, and then they have a version of We Wish You a Merry Christmas, and that's the one this song comes off from. It's the lead track on it.
Yep.
And it's almost kind of a meta song. There's only, I think, 2 verses in the track, but the first verse, they're announcing this is their second Christmas album. They're telling you it only has 5 songs in it.
Yep.
They're telling you they wrote 4 of them while they were in Boise, Idaho, and then the last one is a classic song that you'll know.
This is our second Christmas album. It's only got 5 songs or so. Most of them were made up while in Boise, Idaho, and they're followed by a classic we all know.
That's very on brand for Bowling for Soup.
Yep. And in true pop punk fashion, none of the songs are long, like at all, like you were saying.
No.
No. And in fact, this whole playlist that we aggregated is like barely more than an hour. It does not go long. Yeah.
No. Next one, it goes back to you, and it's Boys Like Girls, who are in DC and Orlando with the song Holiday.
I need to take a holiday.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the bands that I picked aren't on the West Coast, right? So I've noticed there was a distinct like East Coast vibe, especially in DC. Yeah. I feel like there's like a really hard like East Coast vibe to it. And Boys Like Girls is one of those bands that I remember when I first heard and saw they were the pretty boy pop punk emo band. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They all had like perfectly curated hair and looks, and they had like the spiky belts and like everything that some people detested about like mid 2000s pop punk.
Yeah, like they had like a stylist on the tour bus with them.
Yeah. But give them credit, man. They had some catchy songs that were earworms, and they would just get stuck in your. And this is one of them, in my opinion. This is a song that'll get stuck in your head, and it'll just be on loop, and you'll hate it after a while.
Yeah, and this is one. So the band's been around, 20 years now at least. Yep. But I had never heard this song until you shot it over this morning to me, and so that's what I was listening to at lunch today.
Yeah, it's a good one. For a change, if you want to mix it up with some pop punk. Yeah.
So the next one comes back to me, and I was sweating that this band wasn't going to be playing because they were a late announcement, but it's the Dropkick Murphys, who are going to be at Long Beach with The Season's Upon Us.
Some families are messed up while others are fine. If you think yours is crazy, well, you should see mine.
So jealous. Love the Dropkick Murphys. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that I've been on the fence about. Do I convince my family we're all going down there in a couple months and get myself on the waiting list? Because I think Long Beach and DC have both been sold out for months. I think Orlando's still got a few tickets available. I've been seeing folks who have been on the waiting list are getting the email saying, hey, they're yours, come complete your purchase. So this is one of the ones that I'm like, ooh,
I know.
We're starting to tip the scale here.
Well, and you don't know how much longer they're going to tour either, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. So,
Hey.
Oh, hello, future Eden. I was wondering if you were going to show up today, since you did such a great job with our Leon Day episode last year.
Are you really thinking about taking us to Long Beach for the Warp Tour?
Well, I was thinking about it, but then a magical thing happened called jury duty. And now we're going to be home in Oregon, so I can exercise my civic responsibility instead of making a trip to California. I also had to convince your mom still.
So we're not going.
Sorry, not this year. But you know what?
What?
They've already announced that the Warp Tour is coming back to DC next year, and pre-sale tickets are already available. So, we'll just have to wait a few weeks and see if they announce a 2026 stop for us out here on the Best Coast after the Long Beach show. And, we can still watch the live stream just like we did for DC.
It's not the same.
No, it's not, but it's what we have. Hey, while you're here, do you want to share some of your favorite Warp Tour 2025 artists? Or maybe some of your favorite performances from the DC live stream?
I liked the Mod Sun performance okay, and the All Time Low one was pretty good. I would like to watch Ian Dior, Point North, Enter Shikari, Dwayne, Royal and the Serpent, and Pennywise. Ian Dior is probably my favorite.
All solid picks. Thanks for dropping by, but we've left past Kevin and Jeff waiting for quite a while now, so let's turn things back over to them.
Happy Leon Day, everyone.
Yeah, so I love the Dropkick Murphys. They are one of the bands that screams Warped Tour to me. I was actually surprised that they've only played 7 times, counting this year, because it seems like they were just there every year.
that's what I just assumed.
Yeah.
I just assumed they were staples, right? But
yeah, and so this song's kind of interesting. It is definitely a Christmas song. Mm-hmm. Christmas is the theme of it, but it wasn't put out as a Christmas song. In fact, it was put out in January, so right after Christmas, on their Signed and Sealed in Blood album, and it was just a song in the middle of the album. And so this, I can't remember the album that came out before that, but it was a episodic album. So like every song was the continuing tale of the character in the album. And when this one came out, the band said, we just wanted a bunch of catchy sing-along songs. And that's how I would classify this one. It's definitely a catchy song. It's got that Irish style, so it leads off with like a tenor banjo, and you've got an accordion, and the song is just about going home to your dysfunctional family for Christmas.
Yep.
It has a great music video that goes with it. Again, not the most kid-friendly one.
No. I think this pairs well with something like a Fairy Tale of New York. If you were going to play like a couple of like as in stark contrast, right? But like similar vibe to it, like a feel. Yeah.
Absolutely. Looks like the next one is mine too. So this was another new artist to me that my son couldn't believe I didn't know who he was. And this is Ekoh, and it's actually 2 songs. I've got Amazing Christmas List Rap and December to Forget. So this is another kind of bleeding into that emo rap genre, and also another first-time Warped Tour act. And I really like both of these songs. So again, I've never listened to this artist before, but he's got just this incredibly rapid but smooth delivery. Kind of reminds me of Macklemore, but that might just be because he kind of looks like him too, and so I don't know if I'm just thinking that way.
Typecasting,
yeah, exactly. But super talented. So Incredible Christmas Rap was from 10 years ago, and it's quick. It's like you said, a lot of these songs are short, so it's maybe a minute and a half, and it's just a rapid-fire rap to the tune of the theme song from the movie Elf. And he's just rattling off Christmas gift ideas for your friends and family.
Wanna get pop something dope? I suggest going to get him another one of Ekoh. And if you want to show mom some love, get her shoes, anything with a kind.
Again, it's not one for the kids, but it does end with a nice message of love is the best gift. I like it because there's a Star Wars shout out because episode 7 had just come out. And oddly, this one also mentioned Starbucks cups, which had me thinking, I must just not understand the social impact of the holiday cups at Starbucks, because it also gets mentioned in his next song that came out a year later.
I don't really know what happened to life, but I've been feeling like it all isn't treating me right. And it's another holiday, yeah, here we go. Now be nice to these people that I...
So December to Forget, following year. And it's a song about everything wrong in the world, everything wrong with social media, the loneliness heading into the holidays. It's a little bit slower, but still an amazing song. And it's got a chorus from another artist I didn't know anything about, Kalling, where it's, her talking about mental health during the holidays.
Looking for love and likes. I get my social media high. I've got a void to fill. Will I ever feel?
She's another artist from Vegas who is described as an emo cowgirl, which I think fits her. This one mentions Star Wars again because Rogue One had just come out, and it mentions the holiday Starbucks cups again. Also has a fun music video, also a content warning on both of these ones.
Definitely. Yep, definitely.
Awesome. So this one comes back to you, and this is Escape the Fate.
Yep.
Again in DC and Orlando with Christmas Song.
I got Sinatra on the radio, singing jingle bells and let us know.
Yep. Interestingly, I think they're a Las Vegas area band
Yeah.
as well. So I was kind of surprised they weren't on the West Coast at all. But it could just be like a touring thing where they just happen to be, But yeah, so this one is this is very much in the. I feel like I've said post-hardcore more in the like hour we've been on than I have in the past like 6 years. But this is very much like a when you think like crab stance post-hardcore,
Yeah.
like. If you don't know what the crab stance is, just Google it. You'll get it. Like post-hardcore crab stance. Very much like skinny jeans and like hair in their face. Like that's Escape the Fate to me. This song has it's got a good beat to it. I feel like it's like very much if you're looking for a kind of an kind of a mix it up. It's not. I wouldn't call it a good song. But I would say it's like it's a fun, entertaining like. Upbeat, like kind of not upbeat, up tempo.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, up tempo is probably better. Yeah, not upbeat.
Yeah, again, another multi-time Warped Tour band.
Yep.
And this is a fairly recent song. And, by fairly recent, I mean like in the last like handful of years or so.
Yeah, I think 2020 or something like that, right around there.
Yeah. Yep. All right. And then it comes back to me. So next one we have, I cheated a little bit again. It's a full EP. It's A Wonderful Life, the album from Fishbone, who was in DC and Long Beach this year. And so Fishbone is one of those bands that doesn't nearly get the credit they deserve. They've been kicking around since like the end of the 70s. They were an early Warped Tour band. And it seems like they come out about every 10 years to play the Warped Tour again. So I think they played 96, somewhere in the mid-2000s, and then they played one of the very last years. They have been performing for a long time, and I mean, they've got ska songs, more heavy reggae songs, straight punk songs. They've got some R&B songs, then ones that kind of blend genres. They dip into metal a little bit. They're just a really cool band and just touch on everything. So It's a Wonderful Life is 4 tracks. The title track, It's a Wonderful Life, Gonna Have a Good Time, is, I think, probably the most popular one. It's the only one that got a music video. The song itself is just a ska explanation of the plot points of It's a Wonderful Life.
Angel made me know, the angel made me void. Got thrown out the bar, then I wrecked my car. Got socked in the jaw, cussed out by my mom.
I feel like I'm underselling it because that doesn't sound like a great song, but it's a great song. The music video is done in black and white, and it cuts between the band and scenes from It's a Wonderful Life. But my favorite song on there is Slick Nick, You Devil You, which is just a stripped down
Nice.
R&B song. It's like an electric organ and the other band members clapping with the vocals over it. And I guess it's not obscure for them because they just kind of cover so much ground, but it's different compared to the other tracks around it on the album, and just a very, very cool song.
Slick Nick, you devil, you.
Yeah, so I had never heard this album, and when I saw that you had posted it, I immediately looked it up and was like, oh, there's like a whole EP about it, which is super cool. So yeah, I thought it was great. And like you said, there's multiple songs that have different vibes to it. So really, really, really cool eclectic mix of music from a single band.
Yeah, and it's we were kind of talking about this the last time we talked about different songs. This is one where it came out in '87, and then it was a super small pressing, so it disappeared almost instantaneously. And then we didn't have streaming, we didn't have YouTube back then, and so it didn't show back up for about 10 years until one of their compilation albums came out, and they included all 4 tracks on it. And then it's been released, on other compilations since then. But the first decade or so with with nothing.
Yeah. Back in the day, we had to actually have the physical music in front of us. It was a very different experience, and that's why discovering new stuff. That's why going to like live music and seeing a band was so important, because like we had 2 music stores in my hometown, and one of them was a Sam Goody, and so like we would get like big bands, but you never got small bands, and so you'd have to find out like from your friend who had like a bootleg recording of something, and then it's just so different.
Yeah, no, same thing. If you're going to a concert and you didn't know the band, you were asking your buddies if they had a cassette sitting around so you could, preview it, see what it was all about. And then when like the Borders we had in town here.
Oh, Borders, man.
Because I realize there's people that are adults now who were born after Borders folded. So Borders was like a Barnes & Noble. But one of the things they did is they invested in a music listening technology. And I think they owned the company, or they owned the technology they used in their stores. They had a giant CD section up until they went bankrupt. And they cataloged almost every album they had in there. And they had a lot of obscure stuff in there. And so you could grab an album, and then they had, at least the one we had probably 15 listening stations in it that were just kind of bolted into the CD area. And you'd walk up, put a set of headphones on, scan the barcode on the back of the thing, and you had a little like display panel where you could page through the songs, and listen to all of them. And so going to concerts in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was a godsend, because you could go in there and preview everything and see what you liked, and get pumped up about stuff before you went.
Such a cool experience though. Like the discovery process was so fun on it. Yeah.
Let's see. The next one is me again. It's the band 4 Year Strong, which is at all 3 stops this year with the song "Somewhere in My Memory."
Somewhere in my memory, Christmas joys all around me.
So this one made me feel old. And I felt that way because I know the band 4 Year Strong. Didn't realize they've been at 8 Warped Tour, or this will be their 8th Warped Tour. And all of them happened, post me attending it. And so in my head, they're a new band, but they've been doing stuff for like 15 years. And so, that one age checked me a little bit. So this is the "Somewhere in My Memory" song, the John Williams song from Home Alone. There always was a choral version of the song too that had words to it, not just the instrumental piece. And so this is their rendition of that version. So all the choral pieces from it become the lyrics of the song, and they sing them. So for me, it was a cool take on that piece of music. It's got the Home Alone nostalgia, and it's what landed on my list.
Yeah, I'd love to see somebody take a movie and take the soundtrack and the score and replace it with like covers people have done in the movie. I'd love to see, because Home Alone, I think, would be a wildly different like vibe with different kinds of music that people have covered from it. Just be super fun.
Yeah, our local performance hall here, and I think like lots of performance venues do this around the country, but the orchestra, the symphony orchestra we have in town, a few times a year they take generally John Williams stuff. It's Star Wars or it's Harry Potter. I think they did Indiana Jones this last year, but they play the movie in the performance hall, and the orchestra live scores it while the movie's going. And so last year, and we had a schedule conflict, so we couldn't do it, but they did, what's the cartoon Spider-Man movie, the Miles Morales one that just came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse or something like that.
Whichever the first one was, yeah.
One of those,
So they took it, and they did the same thing, except they had live DJs, or live turntablists doing stuff, and they had the orchestra, and they were just remixing the soundtrack in real time as the movie played, and really wish we had an opportunity to see that. But kind of in that same vein, what you were talking about, if you had, you'd have to swap them out quick, and so there's, setup and tear down time. But if you could somehow get a bunch of artists and actually have them live perform covers, over the top of a movie or something like that, that would be fantastic.
Super fun. I totally agree.
All right. Next one's coming back to you. And so this one is...
I cheated.
This one is technically a Glassjaw song.
Yep.
But the frontman is also with a head automatic.
Yeah.
And so this is New White Extremity.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Head Automatica, they are very much like a British kind of up-tempo pop. Like Beating Heart Baby was their, I think their big hit in the U.S. I don't know about, in Great Britain they've had several more hits, but the lead singer, he, Daryl something or other, I forget his, anyway, he started Head Automatica because he wanted to branch out into the Britpop and like hip hop and that sound. But he kept several members of Glassjaw, and so Glassjaw is more of a traditional honestly, they're more what I would have imagined would have been on Warped Tour back in the day. But Head Automatica is a great band. Anyway, so he has this song called New White Extremity, which they say, the band says, is a Christmas song. You listen to it, you may disagree, but I think it's fun. It's tempo-y, and Daryl has such an amazing voice, in my opinion. I think he's got like a very distinct and really kind of rough sound, but in a good way. Anyway.
Yeah, no, his voice, the bass line is just insane in this song too. It comes in right at the beginning, and there's a long instrumental run, and it just drives through the whole thing. And so I've seen Glassjaw. I think I've seen Glassjaw like 2, maybe 3 times now. Never knew about this band. Just was not on my radar at all. And so when this one was announced, like I said, there's people complaining about all the announcements, and so when this one was announced, I didn't understand it because you had the same people complaining, and then you had people just straight losing their mind that this band was playing there, and I had no idea why. And so after you shared it on your list, I looked it up and saw the Glassjaw connection. I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's had this band for, I want to say, close to 20 years now too, in parallel with Glassjaw. So and didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that Dan the Automator produced their first album, and I love the Handsome Boy Modeling School albums that he's done, and a bunch of other stuff. But just not on my radar at all.
Yeah, they're worth a listen for sure, I think.
Yeah. Next one stays with you, and this is
Knuckle Puck.
It's our second Wonderful Life connection, or nod, I guess. And this one's going to be in DC, Orlando, and I'm going to say possibly Long Beach. And so one more quick tangent here. So like we said, they've been doing this slow reveal. And I learned recently what a radius clause was because not being a musician, I'm never familiar with that term. But that's when bands are touring. And if you're booking dates, if you have a date or a concert or a festival you're performing at, and it's too close to one that's already been announced that you're at, you have to wait a certain amount of time before you let people know, or your company can let, the tour organizers can let people know you're there, because they don't want to lose ticket sales because you'll just wait and go to the other one. So there are still some blacked out bands on all 3 tour stops. And like we said, the Warped Tour does things alphabetically. And so all the tour posters have been up, and they started with all the bands blacked out. And as bands were announced, they would uncover them. And so you can kind of guess at who's going to be left by, looking alphabetically and looking at the size of the little blacked out strip. And so there's a blacked out strip that would fit Knuckle Puck just fine for Long Beach that is still covered up. And so I'm hoping they get announced there too, because really enjoy them also. And looks like there's a chance they have a radius clause in place that just hasn't let them uncover that one yet.
Yeah, that would make a ton of sense. I was wondering the same thing. I was wondering why they weren't announced. So this is an absolute banger, in my opinion. It is a great song. It's one of my top Knuckle Puck songs. They also have an acoustic version that I don't think ever got a studio release, but there's a live acoustic version. You can find it streaming. I know YouTube, there's a video of it, so if you're looking for it, which they slow it down.
Oh, that's cool.
And anyway, excellent. This is probably one of my top 3 or 4 on the entire list that we compiled today. It's a great song, great song, and Knuckle Puck is great. So
yeah, I absolutely agree with everything. No further notes. That sums it up really well. Next one stays with you, and this is Machine Gun Kelly, who's going to be in Orlando and DC with Last Christmas.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. The very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
Yep. So love him or hate him, right? Machine Gun Kelly has made. I will commend the guy, because he has tremendous musical ability. He can rap incredibly well. He was highly successful as a rapper, and he just completely transitioned his sound into a pop punk kind of angsty vocal sound. And this version of Last Christmas, the version that I listen to most is him playing live on an acoustic guitar, and it's not to me it's raw, and I like that. he's not the best singer, and that's okay. That's okay to me. It's never. I mean, if you're in the punk scene and the post-hardcore scene, being the best singer is probably not why you're into it. So yeah, I really like it. I thought it was a good version, and it kind of crescendoed into this like nice, really fast, kind of more speedy tempo that I really appreciated. It got more intense and more intense. But yeah, so I mean, it's Machine Gun Kelly. So if you don't like it, then just skip this one. But I think it's worth a listen on this list.
Yeah, so like you said, love him or hate him, I'm generally in the not a huge fan category. I
Same.
will say though that a lot of, like we were talking about the emo rappers and stuff out now, him and Travis Barker also do a lot to push those guys forward and get them attention and airplay and stuff. So do commend him for that. The first time I heard this song was last Christmas. And songs last Christmas. That was unintentional. Nice. So we try to catch like the Christmas music specials, the ones as they come on TV. And he was on, I don't remember what station it was, but it was a Motown Christmas. And, at the beginning, they, do the announcement of all the artists that are going to be on there. And they're announcing, Smokey Robinson's hosting it. They're announcing Motown artists or Motown adjacent artists. And they announce Machine Gun Kelly in the middle of it. And like, my family's sitting there and we're just like, what is that? And then, like you said, it's he comes on with just a guitar. But I don't hate that.
I've heard worse.
Yeah, you can look that up on YouTube. It's his performance on a Motown Christmas from last year, and does a very good job with it. All right, this next one is mine. This is a new band for me, and they're kind of fantastic. Yeah. So this is Mariachi El Bronx. They're at Long Beach this year, and it's a song, Lady Rosalise.
On Christmas Eve, she woke up in silence and packed up her things.
So this is another first-time Warped Tour band. It's the alter ego of the hardcore punk band The Bronx from LA. About 15 years ago, I guess now, they started putting out mariachi albums in addition to their standard punk albums. And so I think they've got 3 of them out now. And I don't think this song was on any of their albums, but it came out right after their first album came out. And I've listened to all 3 of their albums now over the last couple months, and it's just kind of fantastic. You've got, these stereotypical, SoCal hardcore punk guys whipping out the horns, the guitars, and just belting it out and, leaving it all out there on some of these songs. And they're amazing. This is a great song. The guitar work, the horns, fantastic. That same year, they also participated in a different song. The Killers did their Christmas song, Happy Birthday Guadalupe, and they were the backing mariachi band in that song. And I didn't realize that until I was, looking up stuff for this. Yeah. And then one more quick tangent. I'm an Adult Swim fan from, way back in the day when it was like C-Lab and the Brack Show and
Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Space Ghost, yep, Space Ghost and Aqua Teen and yeah.
Aqua Teen,
yeah. And that's actually where we're going with this one. So I didn't realize until actually this morning, for 7 seasons were Aqua Teen, Hunger Force, and then like every year since then they've changed the name of it. So it was Unit Patrol and then something else after that, but they also changed the theme song for each of those years. And this is way beyond my Aqua Teen viewing days. But season 9, Mariachi El Bronx did the theme song for Aqua Teen along with Schoolie D rapping over it. And so I gave that a listen this morning, and it's not bad either. Again, not for kids, but not bad.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of musicians trying new things, right? Even if it doesn't work, and in this case it did. And but I'm a huge fan of just try something else.
Yeah. Next one, it's Going Back to You, and I had a hard time not putting them on my list.
They have a couple.
Yeah, they have a few, and so I was really excited that you put them on yours, so we got to talk about them anyway.
Yep.
So this is Pennywise, who is at all 3 stops with Holiday in the Sun.
Yep. So Pennywise to me is one of those OG Warped Tour bands for me.
Yeah.
Formed in the late '80s, SoCal band, right? And they just have that vibe to them, and they put out great music. So they have 3 big Christmas songs to me, big Christmas songs. I chose the most kid friendly one for this one. But yeah, so I thought this was great. Holiday in the Sun. It's a fun Christmas song. If you like Pennywise, yes, they did take their name from the Stephen King novel, if you're wondering.
Yep.
Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Yeah, great band. They're a classic to me. They're maybe not Mount Rushmore, but they're they're just one of the classic bands that you like must listen if you're looking for like punk history.
Yeah, if you look at the family tree, like they're way up there in the lineage,
exactly.
right? It's yeah, and they're another perennial Warped Tour act. This will be their 11th time appearing. You mentioned this song, and you mentioned they do have a few other Christmas songs. They also have a version of "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" that I feel is fairly kid friendly. I have to go listen to it
It's
again.
real short.
But,
it's like 90 seconds. Also, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then staying with you, we have the Plain White Tees, who are an Orlando only stop this year with "Christmas Won't Be the Same Without You."
And I don't know why we said goodbye. Christmas won't be the same without you.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, not much more to say. It's Plain White Tees, so they have their very like distinct sound. Kind of, to me, they're on the more whiny and not in a bad way. Like just more of the like ballady style of the emo music, right? So, and Christmas Won't Be the Same Without You, which sounds exactly like an angsty ballad, and that's pretty much what it is. So.
Pretty much what I had written down too. That if you listen to every other Plain White Tees song, this is pure Plain White Tees through and through.
Yep.
If you like it, you're gonna love this.
Exactly. Yeah. If you like Plain White Tees, then you probably have already heard this anyway. So, and I don't dislike them. Caveat: I don't dislike the band.
No.
But if I'm going to have them in a playlist, it's going to be like one song of theirs in a playlist. Right.
I get that. For the next one, it comes back to me, and so this one was actually one on my reserve list, but I didn't want you to get parched having to rattle off like 5 in a row here, so I swapped things around to shove one in the middle there.
Love it.
And this is a band that was just announced like within the last week or two, so I think they were another Radius Claws band that that had to be released a little late. But another band I heavily associate with the Warped Tour. This is Rise Against, who will be in Long Beach this year with "Making Christmas" from the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack.
Making Christmas, making Christmas.
I love Rise Against. This is like this is key memory for me. Rise Against, like my college roommate, my freshman year, introduced me to Rise Against, and like never looked back. Their political stance was always fun too.
Yeah.
Like. So anyway, it's just this is a fun song.
Yeah, very similar. One of my best friends at the time, huge Rise Against fan, was very pumped to go up and see them live. Another great band to see live.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so this is the Disney money-making machine at its finest here. Love Disney, but also recognize that it exists to just drain my pocket.
Same.
When, I think it was in 2006, they re-released the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack. This would have been like when Hot Topic realized angsty teenage kids had an affinity for Nightmare Before Christmas and just started putting all the merch back out. So
Jack Skellington everywhere.
Yep. Yeah. So it boomed again. Disney again, not one to sleep on free money. Printed off. I guess it wasn't an anniversary at the time. It was just a re-release of the soundtrack, but they included 5 covers of songs. And so you had Marilyn Manson and Panic at the Disco both covering "This Is Halloween." You had Fall Out Boy doing "Making Christmas."
Yep. And
it was fairly successful. So 2 years later, for the 15th anniversary of the movie, they did an entire album of covers called Nightmare Revisited. Not a terrible album. And it kept Manson's version of "This Is Halloween," but the other covers went away and were replaced by post-hardcore, pop-punk, emo bands at the time. So you got Rise Against doing "Making Christmas." You got a couple of the other bands we're talking about were on that album too with covers. And where Fall Out Boy, I like their version of the song too. It really relies heavily on Patrick Stump's vocals, and the rest of it is kind of them trying to be true to Danny Elfman. And Rise Against is just a straight driving punk song. They keep the lyrics, but just kind of eschew the Elfman-esque thing and just turn it into a straight punk song, and I enjoy it.
Yep, totally agree. I'm not the biggest fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think the music is the best part of the movie. The animation style is really unique and distinct, and it took a lot of time. So I would say artistically, the movie is fine. I'm just not a big fan. It's fine. I don't consider it a Christmas movie, but that's just me. Yeah.
So when that movie came out, we had these things called newspapers back then. And so this was what like 93, I think?
Something like
when that movie came out? Yeah. And so the newspaper in our town, every Saturday, Sunday, whatever day it was, they did a big 2-page spread for the local theaters of what movies were coming out. And all the little, and like the big headliner ones all had little I don't know, flourishes on them, I guess. And so for the couple weeks when Nightmare Before Christmas first came out, I knew nothing about the movie. Yeah, it was just a name in the newspaper. But they started putting little characters of Lock, Shock, and Barrel in the newspaper advertisements. And so they
that's
were
cool.
crawling around the little frame, or they were in the bathtub or whatever. And so, but it was a flat 2D drawing of them. And I had no idea what that was. Again, this is, internet is in its infancy, back then, so you couldn't just go look it up and see what it was.
And as children, we did not have unfettered access to the internet.
No,
right?
no. And so I remember clipping those out and just drawing them. And then eventually, like, a Jack Skellington one came out, and I, again, had no idea what it was or what the movie was, but I loved just that art style that was used for it. And so long before I'd ever seen the movie, because I don't think I saw it the year it came out, I'd like been drawing those characters for a while. And so I have a huge affinity for the art style of it. And like you said, the music, love Danny Elfman. So, that was right up my alley. It's, I think the shine of the movie has worn off on me. And I think my wife took the shine off it a little bit because she said, Nightmare Before Christmas is really just the story of a white man failing up. She said, you run everything, but that's not good enough for you. So you want Christmas. You just wreck Christmas, but that's okay. You learned your lesson. You fixed it at the end, and then you just went back to, ruling your own world.
And nothing ever happened.
Yeah. And no consequences, right?
Yeah, none whatsoever. Yeah. Love it.
So anyway,
you staged a coup. You kidnapped Santa. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Hey, spoiler. Sorry, spoiler alert. Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yeah,
we spoiled a 30-year-old movie.
So
I think I'm up next. Yep.
Yep. Next one comes back to you. This is Census Fail, which are in DC and Orlando with I Wish It Was Christmas Today.
I don't care what your mama says. Christmas time is here. I don't care what your daddy says. Christmas time is dear.
Oh man. So Census Fail has a special place in my heart. This was one of those bands that I heard live and then bought their album. I think it was their EP, their first EP. Small, like really crappily recorded, but I loved it. Right. This was one of the first, not first, but one of the post-hardcore bands that really like just spoke to me. They were a little grittier. Like the lyrics were a little rougher around the edges and like more intense, more on the darker side, less pop punky, but still had some pop punk vibe to it. So, and this song is very much a Census Fail song to me. Like they play it and it sounds, it's very much their sound. Some bands will cover a Christmas song and it will not sound like them at all. And the only way you'll know is just to look. But to me, this sounds like Census Fail, and that's why I like it. So.
Yeah, so for folks that don't know, this is the little Christmas song that Horatio Sands and Jimmy Fallon and who else was there? Tracy Morgan and Chris Kattan, I think, played on Saturday Night Live with the electric keyboard and the little Martin backpacker guitar. And so it's been covered by a few bands. I hadn't heard this version until you shot it over. And so I think my favorite version was the guy from The Strokes, Julian Casablancas.
Yes, yeah.
So he's got a version of it. It's on the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. But man, this one might beat it out. They do a great job with this. Yeah. And you get the screaming toward the end of it. It's just it's a fun song.
Yep. It makes you a little uncomfortable, which I think is good. Good for this style of music.
So the next one stays with you. This is State Champs, who are at all three stops this year with Ordinary Christmas.
In the end, there's no way I'm gonna miss this. All I want is an ordinary Christmas.
Yep. So State Champs is another band that I really like. I kind of found them late aughts, I think, is when I like discovered them, like 08, 09, and kind of followed them into, I think that's right. I could be wrong. But I feel like that's right. And right when I was moving from Western Texas into like the Dallas area. And so that angsty like pop punk music was really like what was kind of keeping me vibing a little bit. And so when I saw they had I'd never heard this Christmas song until I did my Google search and found it. It's fine. It's not like my favorite State Champ song, but it's fine.
Yeah. So I've been sleeping on them. Like I knew the name because they feature on like some other people's songs over the last decade or so. But I honestly don't think I'd ever listened to just a straight State Champ song until until February when they were announced. And so they're good, and like all their albums are good. Criminal, Too Late to Say, Elevated, which I think is like over a dozen years old at this point. Yeah, they're solid. Yeah, I'm just completely sleeping on that one.
Yeah, they have enough variety in their music. I feel like it doesn't. I mean, they sound, they have a sound, but all their songs don't sound the exact same. Some of these bands, like, you can listen to an album and you're like, was that one song, like, just without break, or was this like several different songs? So,
all right, for the next one, it swings back to me here, and so this is the Aquabats! Exclamation point with I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas too.
I demand a hippopotamus for Christmas too. My lawyer's on the phone, we're gonna sue.
I'll admit I'm not the hugest Aquabats fan. I mean, I totally get it and I totally appreciate it. The shtick just was never quite my thing. Yeah. It's quirky, it's manic, it's costumed. It's they have a good time. People who love it have a good time. I don't want to take that away from anyone. Just never really was my exact thing. They're a lot like Fishbone. They've been appearing at the Warped Tour since the very beginning. This is, I think, their 5th time. But this was an entire EP also. And talk about songs being short. This EP was 5 songs. The runtime, I think, was less than 10 minutes total for the whole EP. So if you're not the hugest Aquabats fan, but you want to run through it, you're not going to spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah.
But the title track, I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas Too, is, I think, the best one on the EP. It's a parody version of the song, so it's got the same general background music to I Want a Hippopotamus. But the point of it is they want a hippopotamus too because someone else is getting one and they can't be left out because that wouldn't be fair. That's kind of the shtick to it, and it's fun.
Love it. Love it.
Next one comes back to you. It's the Starting Line, who's in Orlando this year with You'll Be Sorry.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a cheat also, insofar as that Kenny Vasoli, who's the lead singer of The Starting Line, has he sings this song with Aaron Gillespie of Under Oath fame. So has a very distinct sound to it. The song does. Yeah. I think it's a really good one. There are also some Christmas books with this title. so if you Google it, make sure you search for the song, because otherwise you'll get inundated with terrible Christmas cottage mysteries. But yeah, this is a good one. Yeah. So I really like Under Oath. Under Oath was a really important band to me in the early 2000s. After their change from I think it was it Norma Jean, and then I think that's right. I think they were Norma Jean and then became Under Oath. And really had they had one album that I just played on repeat, like over and over. But yeah, and this song, just if you like The Starting Line, then which means you like Kenny Vasoli's lyrics and his sound, and then paired with Aaron Gillespie's really kind of throaty and anyway, I think it's a fun song. It's a good one.
Yeah, like you just said, it's a great combination of both those artists. So a lot of times you have an artist, feature with another artist, and one gets lost. It sounds predominantly like one or the other, but that was actually the note I made was this is probably one of the better blendings of two artists, and you get both of them shining through on it. So totally if you like both, you're gonna like it.
Yeah, especially for bands in the same kind of genre, but very different too. It's a very unique sound.
Yeah. So we were talking about it before. Under Oath's one of the bands that I was really hoping would show up somewhere this year, and so
Same.
Starting Line did. Under Oath did not.
Yep. I was disappointed as well.
Next one stays with you too. This is the Wonder Years, who are at all 3 stops with Christmas at 22.
I'll navigate familiar roads to the Christmas songs on the radio. I'll turn it off, let it snow, I won't be snowed.
Yeah, so this is an acoustic ballad-ish song. It was released on No Sleep's Christmas album. So the label put out a Christmas album, which was pretty common back in the mid-aughts, I think, mid to late aughts. It is what it is. I think it's, to me, it has vibes of coming home for Christmas break, in college or something like that. So, very timely song for me. It recalls a specific time. So I like it. And,
so this is another one of those bands that made me feel old, because in my head I had them cataloged as another new band, right? Or newish band. And they've been putting out albums for 20 some years at this point. And so,
It's terrifying.
yeah, right. So you had this one, and then I had a different Wonder Years song, Threadbare.
All the fingers hanging lifeless, fist balled up in my gloves. It's another mild winter, but I still feel the
And so these songs came out 13 years apart. The one that you had, Christmas at 22, was 2008.
Yep.
Threadbare was, I have to do the math now, 2021.
Yeah.
I guess that's 13. Yeah, that checks out. But the same kind of theme, right? It's coming home for the holidays. It's that bittersweet, that reminiscing because you're visiting the town you grew up in. So similar thematically, but one, the band is 13 years younger when they wrote it, when they performed it. And this one, they're 13 years older towards the end of the pandemic, coming home. And so it's a cool juxtaposition between the two of how they've changed, how their writing's changed, their music's changed. And these are their back-to-back Christmas songs. So they actually announced, it's been 13 years since we put one out. Cool to listen to them back-to-back also.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like you said, the perspective shift is really interesting too. Like you can tell they've grown as musicians, and it's just cool to see that evolution because it is very thematically similar. I had never heard this one until I saw it on your list today.
Yeah, I'd saw it a couple of years ago. It popped up on an Instagram post or a Facebook post or something because I'm not even sure why that popped up there, but they were giving out like a flexi vinyl with that song with Threadbare on it
cool.
For anything you bought during the holiday season from their merch site. I think that's the only way you can get it except for streaming was that like special giveaway they were doing. So that's when I heard it for the first time. But very, very cool song.
Very cool.
The next one stays with me. So this is We the Kings, who are in DC and Long Beach for sure. And there's a better than average chance they will be in Orlando because there seems to be a spot for them.
It does appear that way.
Yeah, and I just went with the entire album, Season's Greetings from the Sandbar. Again, this was another makes me feel old because they showed up after I stopped being a Warped Tour attendee. They've done it 9 times. I mean, they're in Bowling for Soup and Pennywise territory now.
Yeah.
And it's all happened since 2008. So they were hitting it like every year right up until the end there. And this is way different than the normal music they do. So it's called Season's Greetings from the Sandbar, and it's all Christmas classic, your 10 Christmas classic songs, that you hear all the time, but they're all done in a tropical reggae steel drum sound.
Dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write.
And I guess let me clarify that. It's like a Jason Moran's Jack Johnson tropical sound, not a like Blue Hawaiian's Christmas album sound.
Yeah.
But still cool that's just not what they normally do, and they didn't do it as a parody. They like put effort into it, and it came out as kind of a cool album. Out of the tracks, I'd say their version of Baby It's Cold Outside, which features Elena Coates, who's been on at least one of their other songs and toured around with them for a while. Probably my favorite on there.
I simply must go. But baby, it's cold outside. The answer is no. But baby, it's cold outside.
Like I said, I don't know if I'd like the album as much if it wasn't them doing it or if it was a band that normally sounds that way. But for them to like go kind of out of their realm and do it for a Christmas album is just kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think the shift, and like I was talking about, I think it's cool that bands are bold enough to break the mold a little bit, and doing so for a Christmas album, cool, right? That's fine. There's lots of like pop punkish Christmas songs if you want to listen to that. This is not that. This is a pop punk band who did something different and kind of went out on a limb for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're taking us home with the final one here. This is Yellow Card, who is playing Orlando with Christmas Lights.
When you're still waiting for the snow to fall, it doesn't really feel like Christmas.
Yes, so I feel like is this a cover of Coldplay?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought. So Yellow Card is kind of iconic in a lot of ways, right? For so many people, and I know it holds a special place in a lot of my friends' hearts and friends from high school and college age that they have a very distinct sound. They were very popular. Their music videos were hilarious, and I loved them. This is a fun song. It's a good cover. I don't think it's as good as Coldplay's song. And it's funny because I don't really like Coldplay at all. I know I get flack for that. I don't like Coldplay. I don't like the Beatles. I know, I get it. It's fine. And not that I don't respect them. I just don't choose to listen to it. So yeah, it's Yellow Card, and I think it's a fun version. I think they stay true to the original, but in that sense, I think they don't do it as well as the original.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. This is another one that's off the first Punk Goes Christmas album.
Yep.
So same one that had the All Time Low song, same one that has Issues cover of Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays that we discussed last time we talked. Actually, a solid album. I mean,
Yeah,
realistically,
it's a good album. Yeah,
for being those like $5 check stand bin albums,
right?
It stands up. So that was the end of our list. We made it through it. I know you said you had to really pare it down. We don't have to spend as much time on it, but were there any other shout outs you had for ones that it didn't quite make it on there?
Well, let me pull up my list. So Thursday had a live Christmas song, but they don't have any like studio releases, so I kind of nixed them. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus as well. There's a bootleg recording that I saw, like a live version of a Christmas song. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, Attila had a Christmas song, believe it or not. Yeah. So the Orlando one is interesting too, because there's a lot of bands that are blacked out, and I have ideas of like who's going to be there. There's a ton of blacked out stuff. So, but I mean, yeah, Movements had a Christmas song as well. So there's a bunch. I had about 40 Christmas songs that I could have listed, and I might just put it out and tag you in it, like put it out on Twitter or Instagram or Threads or wherever somebody wants me to put it. I can put out the list.
Nice.
And yeah.
No, that's awesome. Like you were saying, the Orlando still has the most blacked out spaces, and that's because, again, I think it's a radius clause thing because they're not playing until it's like November.
Yeah,
right? The other
it's
two
right
are in the
before
summer.
Thanksgiving. Yep.
Yeah, and so there's a big time where they can't announce certain bands there.
Yep.
That was a game that was actually going on in the Reddit thread back in February. Is every day the main website updated the list, and then you would take it. People had released like what fonts were closest and what like size was closest to the one used, and you would sit there and like put in your names and put in your guesses and turn them in for the day, and then see the next day what you got right, what you got wrong, if you needed to shuffle things around because now it wasn't going to fit alphabetically. And so there were days I didn't do very well, and there were days I felt like a genius because.
Right.
Again, I had my son, and Ian Dior and Jack Kays were some early ones. And so I'm like, hey, who else sings with them? And I was making a list. And so I was putting Lil Lotus, who's playing, and a few other ones in there. And I remember people commenting on it and being like, that's crazy, man. They're not going to get a band like that. And then like 2 days later, it was announced. And I'm like, I'm the smartest person in this room. It's,
Everybody, tell me how awesome I am.
Yeah. So like you, I had a bunch of a few live ones too. I think the Interrupters, their guitar player, he had a Christmas song he wrote for his girlfriend. They only do it live. Couldn't find an actual copy of it anywhere, but you can find a couple recordings of him doing it at their various concerts on YouTube.
Nice.
Bryce Vine, who was a new artist for me. He actually has a fairly recent, probably 2-year-old EP called Serotonin that's just fantastic. There's a couple tracks on that, Grow Up in Nostalgia, I've been playing all the time. But he has a Christmas song called The Holiday.
Okay.
There were multiple bands that covered All I Want for Christmas Is You, From Ashes to New, Point North both did. The other artists that were on the Nightmare Revisited album, so All American Rejects do Jack's Lament, and the Plain White Tees do Poor Jack. I had a special note on there for Flogging Molly, so I'm pretty sure Flogging Molly was intended to play, and there was a spot for them, but the band put out an announcement that they were stopping all their touring this summer for health reasons, and so that spot disappeared from the different artist lists. So that was disappointing. But they had where did it go? I had to bring up my list here, and now I don't see it on there. Far Away Boys is a fantastic Christmas related song by Flogging Molly. If you haven't heard it, go look it up.
Okay.
And then another question for you. Artists on this year's Warped Tour that don't have Christmas songs that should.
Ooh, Gym Class Heroes. Hands down.
Oh, that's a good pick.
I love Gym Class Heroes. I think, anyway, I think Travi should definitely do one. I'd love to hear he's such a fantastic lyricist, and his delivery is second to none.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that's
I would say the Gym Class Hero is probably number one for me.
See, they're not playing in Long Beach, so I didn't look up anything for them. So I didn't know if they did or didn't have anything there. But that'd be good.
I even went through all my live stuff too, because I have like some old live
that's
stuff
cool.
that I just saved. Yeah, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, so I had a few. Black Veil Brides, I think could do something fantastic, but I don't think I want them to do a Christmas song. I think I want them to do like a Christmas concert and like maybe get like a symphony or something and just put on like a whole theatric Christmas show. I think they'd knock that out of the park.
Yeah.
Who else did I have on there? Magnolia Park. They have a set of Halloween albums, Halloween mixtapes 1 and 2. I want them to take a swing at Christmas next.
Sure.
So they're not listening, but were they? Yeah, we should do something like that.
Tag them.
Yeah, and then Dwayne's another artist that I'd never really heard of before. You know, he has the song Adios with Chase Atlantic that was a few years old. But he's got a new song that just came out recently called Highway Robbery.
Oh, this is a highway robbery.
The best description I heard of it was, it sounds like if Prince and Bon Jovi had a baby, and that's probably the most accurate description. It's just this big booming song, and I think there's a handful of Christmas songs he could put that treatment on that would be fantastic, or just do something new and unique.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's so many bands here too that I'm sure there's probably some that my like very surfacey Google food didn't
absolutely.
And there's also name changes. A lot of these bands also go through different iterations, and so like they might have something they put out under a different name or an alias or things like that.
Oh yeah, some of them were difficult. Like full disclosure, there's if anyone's listening and we didn't name the band and a great song, there's probably all kinds of bands on these lists that do have Christmas songs that we weren't able to find. Like like I said, I was going through the list, punching in the artist name and Christmas song or holiday song, and so some of them, like Taylor Acorn is an artist.
Yep.
Google just wants to give you Taylor Swift stuff because you put the word Taylor and Christmas there, and it's just not going to shake itself loose from that.
No, it's not.
So if Taylor Acorn has a Christmas song, I apologize, I was unable to find it.
Yep. Yeah, my low effort post did the same. Like I searched, but I'm not going to dig that deep. Sorry.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end here. So Jeff, I want to thank you again for coming on and doing this with me. This
was so fun. I mean, this is so much in my wheelhouse, and it's such a nostalgia trip too. This was great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Is there anything coming up on Lost Christmas you want to share with folks?
Yeah. So I've got updates on my book that I'm working on. Working on that really heavily, trying to with editor and getting it released is it's a long process to get a book edited.
Awesome.
But yeah, I've got new episodes coming out this winter. I've got some collaborations that I've been on. I'm hoping to get back on BBC Radio this year, so that'll be exciting too. But yeah, awesome. Just more than anything, support the Christmas Podcast Network. There's so many fantastic podcasts on there, and great
absolutely.
people too. I mean, not just, but any kind of content you want. You want food, you want music, you want hit TV shows. you can find it in the Christmas Podcast Network. So be sure and check out the podcasters because they're great. But check out mine too because I feel like I do a pretty good job.
And that's a great segue. So where can folks find you?
You can find me. You can go to the website, lostchristmaspodcast.com. You can find me on Linktree, Lost Christmas Podcast as well. Any social, any podcast delivery network, you can find me. I primarily do during the holiday season, but every now and then, if I get motivated, I'll put out something that I've got stored up, or if I don't have time for it in the following season, I'll put something out during the season. So a little bit different format this year. I've been advised through like publishing means to not put my book into the podcast anymore. So you won't find the book in the podcast this coming season, just for publishing purposes. I can't do that anymore. But yeah, but it doesn't mean I won't hint at what's coming as well. So very exciting. So yeah, you can find me on all the socials, and all the podcast networks. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kevin.
I want to thank Jeff one more time for joining me to talk about Christmas music and the Vans Warped Tour. If you want to listen to Jeff and my 2025 Warped Tour Christmas picks, there are links in the show notes for playlists on both Tidal and YouTube. I've also created non-Christmas Tidal playlists for each of this year's Warped Tour stops. You'll also find the links to those in the show notes. I also want to thank Eden for making another Leon Day appearance and sharing some of her Warped Tour 2025 picks. And finally, if you haven't, please go check out all the other fantastic Christmas podcasts in the Christmas Podcasts Network, many of which are dropping their own episodes for Leon Day. Thank you for listening to 'Tis the Soundtrack. You can find all of our past episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We don't judge, but we'd sure appreciate a like or subscribe while you're there. You can also find us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, all under the handle @TisTheSoundtrack. Our website is tisthesoundtrack.com, and you can get in touch with us via email at kevin@tisthesoundtrack.com. Our intro music is Krampus Workshop by that wizard of most everything audio, Kevin MacLeod. You can find him and his work at incomptech.com. All other music, songs, and snippets of audio used throughout this episode belong to their respective copyright holders and are used solely for the purpose of commentary. Links to all the music featured in this episode are available in the show notes or episode description for you folks on YouTube. Cheers, and happy Leon Day.
Happy Leon Day, everyone.